Today I will review This by Mark Manson. While it is flawed, I'll briefly summarize it and explain what I liked about it before I launch into criticism. The purpose of the book, as Mark Manson puts it, is to help you think a little more clearly about what you're choosing to find important and what you're choosing to find unimportant. I'd say the central ideas are: it's okay to suffer because suffering is inevitable and even valuable. You can't be exceptional at everything, and it's fine, even likely, for you to be unexceptional. And you should search for a meaningful pursuit in life rather than chase superficial gratification. A lot of Manson's advice seems to echo Buddhist philosophy, particularly the notion that desire leads to suffering. Manson argues that desire, say for a posh car, a fitter-looking body, better sex, makes you focus on what you lack and makes you dissatisfied with what you have, thereby making you unhappy. And I agree that those who fixate on what Manson calls superficial pleasures seldom attain long-term satisfaction, which he says is demonstrated in research as well, and I'll take his word on that. So I think a lot of Manson's aphorisms and observations do have some sense. One example is his observation that the more something threatens your identity, the more you avoid it. So, say you constructed your identity as a great chess player, then you would avoid going up against players who would destroy you because that would threaten your identity. But with this attitude, you'd never improve at chess because you wouldn't challenge yourself, and you'd always be burdened by having to uphold your image. Rather than have these conceits, Manson proposes that you be more honest with yourself and kill your ego, which is consistent with advice given to elite athletes. So you can consider it a kind of field-tested strategy. As for what I didn't like about the book, I'll just read out some platitudes which I consider unsound. So there's one on page 12. Chances are you know somebody in your life who did not give a f*** and then went on to accomplish amazing feats. But I thought he said greatness is an illusion in our minds on page 21. Anyway, I actually don't know of such a person. Most extremely successful people I know are obsessives. Like, did Michelangelo not give a f*** when he sculpted the David? Or did Bach not give a f*** when he composed the Matthew Passion? The only person I can think of, and this is tenuous, who might fall under this category, is Z's. But even then it's likely he was obsessed with his image, and as George Carlin said, those who say they don't give a f*** are usually desperate to convince other people that they don't give a f***. To be fair to Manson, maybe he meant that those who accomplish amazing feats didn't give a f*** about others' opinions or the possibility of failure, but did give a f*** about the practices in which they excelled. I think a lot of confusion in passages like these stems from how Manson equivocates with the term to not give a f***, as in he uses that same term to mean different things. So on the one hand, he uses it multiple times in the sense that we would imagine it to mean, which is simply to not care about something. But then on the other hand, I think also on page 12, he says, to not give a f*** is to stare down life's most terrifying and difficult challenges and still take action, which to me sounds an awful lot like giving a f***. So his ambiguous use of this term, I think, presents quite a challenge for the reader. Okay, page 13 to 14. Because when you give too many f***s, you will feel that you're perpetually entitled to be comfortable and happy at all times, that everything is supposed to be just exactly the fucking way you want it to be. How would giving too many fucks, or should I say, caring too much, make you feel entitled to comfort and happiness? Like, how did Manson leap that bridge? I would imagine that giving too many fucks would just render you a neurotic mess, so I just don't understand this assertion. Moving on. Page 73. The more uncomfortable the answer, the more likely it is to be true. So let's say you got rejected by a girl or a guy and were looking for a reason as to why this was the case. Well, according to this principle, the answers most likely to be true are also the most crushing. That you're worthless, that you're a loser, your mother never loved you, or that everyone around you instinctively knows you're a complete train wreck. And why? Well, because those answers are the most uncomfortable. How helpful is that? Okay. Page 123. All beliefs are wrong. Some are just less wrong than others. Well, this idea is self-refuting because if all beliefs are wrong, then the belief that all beliefs are wrong is also wrong. Okay, enough said. Page 171. The point is this. We all must give a f*** about something in order to value something. And to value something, we must reject what is not that something. To value X, we must reject non-X. Well, aside from being kind of incoherent and poorly written, I have problems with this idea at the end, and I hope I'm not being unfair to Manson, but is he suggesting that if I want to value Brahms, I have to reject Mozart, or my golf swing, or burritos? I wouldn't imagine that to be the case, so reading that passage in context and being charitable, I think what he's trying to say is that you can't possibly be a jack of all trades, so if you want to excel at one thing, you have to accept that all your other interests will have to sit on the back burner. Which I don't think is true. I think you can excel in multiple different activities simultaneously. For example, you could probably be a pretty good gymnast while being a great mathematician, because if you know the relatively little time you spend doing gymnastics would otherwise be wasted, then you're not really losing out on your maths potential. You're just making better use of your time. And gymnastics could even directly improve your maths by making you healthier and feel better. So while you may have to be a bit strategic with your activities, it is by no means impossible to have it both ways, as Manson suggests. Right, page 194. If there is no reason to do anything, then there is also no reason to not do anything. Like, I guess that's true, but I would imagine there are more compelling reasons to try in life than why not bother. I recall Jordan Peterson saying something to the effect of, you should try in life so you don't have to suffer more stupidly than you already do, which I thought was quite clever. And while I have my problems with Dr. Peterson, I find his case to be more of an argument than Manson's. There is no reason to not do anything. When I read the first chapter of the book, I'll be honest, I was really put off. I didn't like Manson's writing style or his attempt at humour. I didn't like the profanity, and insofar as it could be considered a philosophical work, I thought it was laughable due to the incoherence and poor structure and fallacies and platitudes, but the book did grow on me. I found Manson's anecdotes engaging. His writing somehow got better after that bad first chapter, and as far as help books go, I'm not going to discount its worth, even if a lot of it is repackaged Buddhism and Stoicism. But would I recommend it? Well, the problem is, the kinds of people for whom I would recommend this book the most, I think are also the least likely to read it and learn from it. And I think those who would read it all and understand it would already be familiar with its precepts. So whom would it really benefit? I don't know. But maybe, if you're a bit lazy or inadequate, the book just might give you a justification for your complacency. And perhaps there's nothing wrong with that.